Last year, I bought an M1 iPad Pro and it was pretty pricey. Fast forward to today and the same M1 chip is available in the much cheaper iPad Air. The same 8-core CPU and 8-core GPU for only $600. So I bought one to test just how similar the iPad Air experience is, as I want to know whether I wasted my money on the iPad Pro and if I should maybe sell it. I paired the Air with the Magic Keyboard to match my iPad Pro setup. I think the Magic Keyboard is one of the best keyboard cases you can buy for your iPad. Due to its simple magnetic design, high build quality, and the additional Type-C connection that's useful for charging your device. However, on second thoughts, I do regret getting it in white. I dread to think what this will look like after months of daily use. Just look at how nasty the grey version is. After setting up and installing my apps, I was committed to the challenge. Coming from the huge 12.9-inch iPad Pro, I expected the smaller screen size to be an issue for me, but actually the form factor was very nice to use. The iPad Air 5 is much lighter, the smaller keyboard feels more agile, and less of a hassle to quickly open up when working on the go. Multitasking on the Air is identical to my M1 iPad Pro, which should be expected as the iPad Air has the exact same processor and plenty of RAM. Even with the smaller display, I felt there was still plenty of room for placing my various apps across the screen. It does not feel crammed like the iPad Mini 6 often can. By the end of my second day with the M1 iPad Air, I noticed my storage was filling up fast. Although the 64GB version is great value, in 2022, it might not be enough. Apps are getting bigger and more complex, resulting in this problem only getting worse. iCloud storage or Google Drive is always an option if you choose a 64GB version, but it will still not help when it comes to installing apps, and the limit you will inevitably reach. Upgrading to the 256GB iPad Air is a huge jump in price, and for £30 more, you may as well get a 128GB iPad Pro that has got way more features. A reason why I originally bought the M1 iPad Pro was for center stage. At the time, this was an exclusive feature, but now the exact same 12-megapixel selfie camera is available in the iPad 9, the iPad Air 5, and also the iPad Mini, providing the exact same quality for your calls. So far, everything has been perfect with the iPad Air. It has been able to tackle all of the tasks that my iPad Pro does. However, Touch ID is just not good enough after using Face ID for so long. It doesn't sound like a huge issue when I mention it, but once you've experienced how seamless Face ID is on the Pro, it just feels so much slower. It's not just a problem when you're unlocking your iPad, but also with things such as accessing passwords and Apple Pay while shopping online. Touch ID adds another step that requires you to remove your hands from your keyboard. It's a small delay that's just a little bit annoying. As much as I love using the iPad Mini 6, the screen on that device was an absolute disaster. The jelly rolling effect, although it did not bother me at the time of my review, after months of use, it really does drive me crazy. I am pleased to say that the iPad Air has a beautiful display. It is 500 nits, providing good brightness levels, and although it is only 60Hz, it is still very smooth and responsive. Colors also look great with a good contrast level. Obviously, it isn't on the level of the Liquid Retina XDR display that's found inside of the iPad Pro that's got ProMotion and also mini LED technology for superior contrast levels. But for students writing up essays and taking notes in class, the iPad Air is more than sufficient. However, it is important to mention the lack of HDR support. The iPad Air does not have a HDR display, which is a bit disappointing if you watch a lot of movies on Netflix and Disney+. It was a fun 72 hours testing the iPad Air 5. For the price, the iPad Air 5 is a tremendous tablet. It has the incredible M1 desktop processor, giving users more power in apps such as LumaFusion and Procreate. But the M1 iPad Pro offers me more than just power. It completes the entire experience. If you are thinking about using a Paperlike Screen Protector with your new iPad Air, you really should watch this video next, as you could be making a huge mistake.